Mommy, that man is staring at us.
Lucas whispered it against his mother's neck, his small fingers clutching the collar of her jacket. What the millionaire did on Christmas Eve changed everything.
Mommy, that man is staring at us.
Elena felt the blood drain from her face. She followed her son's gaze toward the black Tesla Model S idling at the red light on Fifth Avenue. Behind the rain-streaked window, a man watched her with an intensity that turned her stomach inside out.
Don't look at him, baby.
She pulled Lucas tighter against her chest, feeling him tremble beneath his soaked hoodie. The cold December rain had cut straight through to the bone. 3 hours of overtime, a $20 tip split with the busboy, and now they could not even get home because the subway on the L line was shut down for emergency track repairs. Christmas Eve. What a joke. The light turned green, but the Tesla did not move.
Mommy, why is that man crying?
Elena looked up sharply. The man behind the wheel had his face twisted like something deep inside him was breaking, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He stared at her like he knew her, like he owed her something. A yellow cab behind him leaned on the horn. He finally moved. Elena let out a breath she had not realized she had been holding. He was not crying, sweetheart. He just had something in his eye. Lucas coughed, that rough, rattling sound that had been getting worse for weeks. Elena pressed her lips to his forehead. Burning up. No money for urgent care until Friday. She just had to get through 3 more days, just 3 days. The roar of an engine made her spin around. The Tesla had circled the block and was now easing to a stop directly in front of the bus shelter. The window rolled down. "Excuse me." The voice was low, polished old money. The face belonged in a magazine. The suit probably cost more than 6 months of her rent on their apartment in the Bronx. Everything about him screamed money. Everything about him screamed danger. "Not interested," said Elena, turning her face away. "I just want to offer you a ride home. We are fine. You are both soaked." And he said no. Lucas coughed again, harder this time, his little body shaking against hers. Elena felt something crack open in her chest. "Your son is sick," the man pressed on quietly. "Please, let me take you home. It is Christmas Eve." "We do not need charity from—" "Not charity," interrupted the man. "It is freezing. It is Christmas Eve." It is what Elena locked eyes with him. His good deed for the day. His ticket to feeling okay about himself. The man flinched like she had hit him. Something moved across his face. Guilt. Something older than guilt. "I just want to help." Lucas coughed once more, and Elena felt her resistance splinter apart at the seams. She hated this. She hated needing. She hated that her pride could not pay the emergency room bill. Hunts Point, Bronx, South Edgewater Park. Get in. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Lucas sank his fingers into the seat, wide-eyed with wonder. Elena kept her spine rigid, her arms a wall between her son and the stranger at the wheel. "I am Sebastian." She said nothing. "You both nobody who matters to you." Silence settled between them, thick as the rain on the windshield. Sebastian drove carefully, like he was transporting something fragile. Every so often, his eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, watching them. Elena knew that look. She had seen it 1,000 times in the restaurant. Rich customers leaving 30% tips and expecting a lifetime of gratitude. Pity dressed up in good manners. "You work at the Fontaine?" he asked, nodding at her uniform. "Are you running a background check on me?" "No, I just recognize the logo. I go there sometimes." Elena let out a short, bitter laugh. "Of course you do. Places like that are built for people like you. People who can spend $80 on a pasta dish while other people cannot afford the bus." Sebastian tightened his jaw but said nothing. He took the exit toward the Bronx. The streets gradually narrowed, grew darker. The buildings older, closer together, leaning against each other like tired people on a long shift. His world and hers separated by 30 minutes of highway and an entire universe of difference. "This is fine," said Elena when they reached her building. Sebastian looked out the window. The peeling paint on the facade, the flickering hallway light, the trash bags piled at the corner. His expression did not change, but his eyes did. They went softer, sadder, worse. He reached into his jacket and held out a folded stack of bills. For the doctor. For your son. Elena felt rage blaze up through her throat. Put that away. But we are not your charity project, she said. We are not your Christmas feel-good story. She pushed the door open and lifted Lucas out, his arms looping automatically around her neck. Thank you for the ride. Wait, at least tell me your no. She shut the door harder than she meant to, hoisted Lucas onto her hip, and walked toward the building without looking back. Each step a statement, each step its own declaration. I do not need you. But when she reached the 4th floor and looked out the stairwell window, the black Tesla was still there. The man inside still watching. And something in his expression, something in the way he looked at her, froze her blood for the second time that night. It was not desire, it was not pity. It was recognition. Like he had seen her before, like he knew something she did not. Elena yanked the curtain shut, her heart slamming. She pulled Lucas close. Mommy, are you okay? Yes, baby, I am okay. But she was not, because something told her that man in the black Tesla was not a stranger trying to help. He was something much worse. He was her past coming to collect. Sebastian could not stop shaking. 3 a.m, his penthouse on the 52nd floor of a Columbus Circle high-rise, the city glittering 40 stories below him. And he could not get those eyes out of his head. That furious jaw, that fierce, waterlogged dignity. We are not your charity project. He opened his laptop. His fingers moved before his brain could catch up. The Fontaine, staff directory, nothing. Social media, the Bronx, South Edgewater Park, nothing. He slammed the laptop shut. What the hell was he doing? He was a stalker. He was an idiot with too much money and too much time. But something about her had gutted him. It was not just her exhausted beauty or the way she shielded her son. It was something deeper, something unsettling, like looking into a mirror that showed you everything you had traded away on your way to the top. He opened the laptop again. He found the general manager's contact in the restaurant's reservation system where he was listed as a VIP guest. He sent a message. Sorry for the late hour. Could you send me the name of the woman who worked the late shift tonight? I want to send her an additional gratuity. Exceptional service. The reply came 15 minutes later. Her name is Elena Morrow. She has been with us for 4 years. Everything all right, Mr. Hartwell? Sebastian went completely still. Morrow. Morrow. The name scorched the inside of his skull. He knew it. He had to know it. He was on his feet before he realized he had stood up, crossing his study in 3 steps, pulling open the steel filing cabinet in the corner. Documents he had inherited along with the company. History his father had never wanted to discuss. He dug through folders with shaking hands, old contracts, partnership agreements, legal filings from decades past. And then he found it. Hartwell and Morrow Capital Partners, founded 2003. The folder was at the bottom, under everything else, like it had been deliberately buried. He opened it, and the world stopped turning. Richard Morrow, co-founder, 50% equity stake, photographs spilled across the desk, charity galas, corporate retreats, his father and another man, both grinning for the camera. And in one photo standing just behind them, a girl of about 8 years old in a pale blue dress. Same eyes, same jaw. Elena. No, no, no. Sebastian dug further. His hands would not stop trembling. Articles of dissolution, October 2008, fraud litigation filed, Richard Morrow versus Charles Hartwell, counter litigation, forged signatures. Contract manipulation. Richard Morrow swore under oath that he had never signed the documents used to dissolve the partnership. Sebastian read every page, feeling his stomach turn inside out with each one. His father had manipulated the contracts, forged signatures, used procedural loopholes to walk away with everything. And Richard Morrow had lost everything. Oh, God. He kept reading. He needed to know all of it. A newspaper clipping folded between legal briefs. Local businessman dies of heart attack following loss of landmark court case. Richard Morrow, 47, is survived by his wife Carol and a daughter Elena, age 13. Elena was 13 when her father died. Sebastian felt his throat close. He remembered that year. He had been 19. Starting his sophomore year at Yale, his father had come home that night with a bottle of scotch, laughing, expansive. Finally cut loose that deadweight Sebastian. The whole company is ours now. Clean slate. Sebastian had toasted him without asking, without questioning, without wanting to know. He kept reading. News articles, personal finance forums, a neighborhood blog. The Morrow family had lost their home in Scarsdale within a year. Carol Morrow had worked 2 jobs, then 3. She died 6 years later, ovarian cancer, no insurance, no treatment. And Elena, Sebastian searched her name. Almost nothing. She guarded her privacy like armor. But he found one thing, a short piece in a community college newsletter. Elena Morrow, a second-semester business administration student, has withdrawn from the program due to financial hardship. She plans to return one day, the 19-year-old says. For now, she is working full-time to support herself and her younger relatives. The photograph showed a girl with sharp eyes and a tight, determined mouth. 19 years old. He had been 25, running the company that had ended her childhood. And he had never once asked. Sebastian dropped his face into his hands. His penthouse, his car, his wardrobe, his annual ski trips to Aspen. All of it built on the wreckage of that family. On the death of a man who had done nothing wrong. On the broken dreams of a little girl in a blue dress. "What did you do, Dad?" he whispered into the dark. "What did you do?" But he already knew. He had always known, in the way you know things you cannot afford to look at directly. His phone buzzed. A follow-up from the restaurant manager. "Just so you know, Elena is one of our best, never misses a shift. She also cleans offices on weekends to make ends meet. She has a young son. If you would like to send something extra her way, she has earned it." A young son. Lucas, that sick little boy coughing in her arms. He was the next generation of Morrows being quietly ground down by the same machine. Sebastian walked to the window. The city below him beautiful and indifferent as always. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant. "Sir, it is 4:30 in the morning. I need you to pull everything you can find on someone. Elena Morrow, Bronx, New York, South Edgewater Park area. Her outstanding debts, her financial situation, everything. Keep it off the books and move fast." He ended the call before she could object. He stood in the reflection of the window. A stranger looked back at him. Someone who had just discovered that his entire life was a fabrication. That his comfort had a name and a face. That his father had not just been ruthless, he had been something closer to a killer. Not with a weapon, with paperwork, with lawyers, with the systems designed to protect the powerful and erase everyone else. And Sebastian Hartwell had inherited every single cent of it without asking a single question. The sun was beginning to come up over Manhattan. Christmas Eve had tipped into Christmas morning. He watched the first pale light spread across the skyline and understood with the kind of clarity that physically hurts that he could not undo what had been done. But maybe, only maybe, he could try to do something with what came next. Even if she hated him for it. Even if she had every right in the world to slam the door in his face. Even if it was too late. Because if he did nothing, he would become his father, and that was the one thing he absolutely could not live with. Mrs. Patterson opened the door of her ground-floor apartment with a warm smile that froze the moment she saw Sebastian standing in the hallway holding 2 bags of Christmas gifts. "I am here to see Elena Morrow. She does not want visitors. Please, it is Christmas." The older woman looked at the bags. Toy trucks, a new winter coat, children's size, good boots. Her expression softened by half a degree. "4th floor, apartment 4C. Mrs. Patterson." Elena's voice crackled through the building intercom. "Do not let him up here." But Sebastian was already on the stairs. Elena was waiting in the doorway. She had changed out of her wet uniform into old jeans and a faded sweatshirt, her hair pulled back. The uniform gone. Without it, she looked younger and somehow more formidable. "Get out of this building." "I brought gifts for Lucas. It is Christmas. I do not care what day it is. You said we are not your charity case. You are right." "Then leave. Not charity, not pity, not a tax write-off." Sebastian took a breath. Now or never. "I know who you are." The silence dropped like a stone. Elena went pale. "What did you say?" "Elena Morrow, daughter of Richard Morrow." "I know who you are. I know what my father did." The slap was fast and open-handed, snapping his face to the side. His cheek burned. It was nothing compared to what was in her eyes. "You have the nerve to come to my home after what your family did to us? I do not care what you knew." Elena was shaking. "Do you have any idea what it is like to watch your father die of a heart attack at 47 years old? Do you have any idea what it is like to watch your mother work herself into the ground, paying off debts that were never hers to begin with? Elena, please, no." Her voice did not break, but her eyes were flooding. "My father was a good man, an honest man. He worked for everything he had. And your father lied in court and took it all. Every last thing. Forged his signature, manipulated the filings, took everything." Sebastian felt the words like hands around his throat. "I know. I read the documents. I saw all of it." "And so what?" She laughed short and sharp and without warmth. "So now you come here with toys and a guilty conscience. You want to pay for the sin and keep the money." "I did not come to buy anything." "Then what did you come for?" "Because I cannot live knowing what I know and doing nothing about it." Her eyes were fierce and exhausted and completely unmoved. "Then live with it. That is what the rest of us do." "Mommy, why are you crying?" Lucas appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. His face lit up when he saw Sebastian. "It is the nice man." He ran toward the bags before Elena could move. He pulled out a red fire truck and shrieked, "Mommy, look, it is just like the one at the store downtown." Elena closed her eyes. "Lucas, go to your room." "But, Mommy, now please." The boy obeyed, dragging the truck behind him. Elena waited until she heard his bedroom door close. Then she turned back to Sebastian, and he saw something worse than anger. He saw exhaustion. A deep structural exhaustion, the kind that does not come from one bad night, but from years of carrying weight that was never supposed to be yours. "Why are you really here?" Sebastian let the bag slide to the floor. He leaned against the wall. "Because I have not slept in 2 days. Because I found out my entire life is a lie. Because I cannot stop thinking about the fact that everything I have was built on your loss." He looked at her directly. "And because something broke in me the second I saw you at that bus stop, before I even knew who you were." A pause stretched between them, long and unsteady. Then Lucas appeared again in the hallway, peeking from behind the doorframe. "Mommy, you said no bad words." Sebastian said a bad word. The tension shattered. Elena pressed her hand over her mouth, laughed despite herself. "You are right, baby. I did. I am sorry." Lucas studied Sebastian with enormous brown eyes. "Are you staying for breakfast? Mrs. Patterson brought tamales." They looked at each other. Something passed between them that was not forgiveness, not friendship, but something honest. Two people standing in the rubble of the same disaster, finally looking each other in the face. "You can come in," said Elena at last, "because it is Christmas. And because my son has already adopted you. You can tell me to leave any time." "Oh, I will." She stepped aside. "Count on it." Sebastian Hartwell walked in. It was a small space. He could not help noticing the water stains on the ceiling, the second-hand furniture the radiator held together with a wrench and a prayer. He also could not help noticing the refrigerator covered in Lucas's crayon drawings. The library books stacked in careful piles, the framed photograph of Elena as a teenager with a man who had her same eyes, her same jaw, her same stubborn way of holding his chin. Richard Morrow. Sebastian sat at the kitchen table and ate tamales and did not say another word about any of it. Elena opened the door the next morning to find Sebastian on the landing. No bags, no gifts, no envelope. Just a guy in jeans and a plain gray hoodie, hands in his pockets. "What do you want now?" "I thought I could take Lucas to see a pediatrician about his cough. I know someone who can see you both today. We do not need—" "I know you do not need anything from me." Sebastian held her gaze. "But he needs to see a doctor, and the public clinic has a 3-month wait, and I have a contact. He is a good doctor, no strings." Elena gripped the doorframe. The coughing had kept her up all night again. "1 hour," she said. "That is it." The appointment lasted 2 hours. The pediatrician, Dr. Reyes, was thorough and unhurried. He listened to Lucas's lungs, ran a breathing test. Came back with a diagnosis: mild asthma. Manageable, but he will need ongoing treatment. Elena felt the familiar cold knot form in her stomach. Ongoing meant money. Money she did not have. How much is the treatment for? There are generic options, probably around $900 a month, almost a full week of tips. "I will pay for it," said Sebastian. "No." Elena turned to Dr. Reyes. "What is the most affordable option?" He described it. She did the math in her head. She nodded once. "I will cover it." She looked at Sebastian. Not a word. He nodded. When they came out into the street, Lucas grabbed Sebastian's hand without thinking about it. "Thank you, Mr. Sebastian. My chest does not hurt anymore." Sebastian crouched down to his level. "That is what matters, champ. Are you coming back tomorrow?" Sebastian looked up at Elena. She was looking at the sidewalk. "If your mom says it is okay." Elena looked down at her son, at the hope sitting wide open on his face, and understood she had already lost this particular battle. "Fine," she said, "but only because he insists." The next week, Sebastian showed up with groceries from the neighborhood market on Westchester Avenue, not from Whole Foods, not delivered, but from the actual market where Elena shopped. "How did you know where we buy food?" I asked Mrs. Patterson. Luciana pressed her lips together. He did not know how to dice an onion. She showed him. He cried like a kid at a birthday party. She laughed harder than she had in months. "Seriously," she said, "you have never cooked before in your life? I had a private chef growing up, and before that my mother kept me out of the kitchen because she said I was, and I quote, a menace." Well, she was right. She is gone now. Died when I was 21. Elena went quiet. "She found her on the bathroom floor," he continued after a moment, his voice flat. "Empty bottle next to her. There was a note. She said she could not live with what my father had done, that no amount of money was worth the way he made it. Why are you telling me this? So you know I also lost someone to him." The quiet between them changed. "You think that makes us even?" "No." Sebastian set down the knife. "Nothing makes it even. I just wanted you to know that when I say I understand what it means to live in his shadow, I am not guessing." Elena looked at him for a long moment. Then she handed him a new onion and told him to try again. He did. On New Year's Eve, Lucas's kindergarten class held a winter celebration. Sebastian asked if he could come. "You do not have to," said Elena. "I want to." At the school gymnasium, the other parents took one look at Sebastian, tall and obviously out of place in a way money makes you, and started whispering. "Is that her boyfriend?" one mom whispered to another. "He is a family friend," Sebastian said pleasantly, extending a hand to the nearest one. "Sebastian, and you are—" They were won over within 15 minutes. He carried Lucas on his shoulders when the boy won the ring toss. He cheered during the nativity play where Lucas played a shepherd with zero interest in the script. He bought hot cider for 3 sets of grandparents who had not planned to like him. When the evening ended and they walked home through the cold, Lucas was asleep against Sebastian's shoulder, arms draped around his neck. "He weighs more than he looks," Sebastian breathed. "Welcome to parenting," said Elena, "or whatever this is."
Whatever this is,
She echoed quietly. They stopped at the door of her building. The streetlights laid orange squares on the wet pavement. Sebastian's breath showed in the cold air. "I think I am falling in love with you both."
do not say that.
"Why not?" "Because it is complicated. Because your family destroyed mine. Because you feel it too." She could not deny it. She looked up at him. His face was open in a way she had never seen it.
Can I kiss you?
His voice was barely a sound.
Or I can go home. You decide.
She looked at him for a long moment. Her heart was going fast, and she hated it. This is a bad idea. The worst ideas usually have the most truth in them. He leaned slightly closer. She could feel the warmth of him in the cold air, and then she stepped back. "I cannot." She shook her head. "I cannot let myself feel this. Not with who you are and who I am. Our worlds do not meet, Sebastian. They collide." "Then let them collide."
No.
Her voice cracked. She took Lucas from his arms, felt the familiar weight settle against her. "This has to stop. You cannot keep coming here. Elena, it was a mistake letting you in." She turned toward the door. "It was a mistake believing this could be anything more than your guilt looking for a way out. That is not what this is." "Then what is it?" "Because I just found out today how rich you actually are. I looked you up. I saw the articles. I saw the conferences and the charity galas and the Forbes list. Your world and my world are not just different, Sebastian. They are opposites. That does not matter to me. It matters to everything." She faced him, her son asleep on her shoulder. "I cannot afford to fall for someone who can walk away from all of this the second it stops being interesting. You can go back to Columbus Circle and forget this neighborhood exists. I cannot forget. This is my life. I do not want to forget. But you could. That is the difference." The door opened. She walked in without looking back, because if she looked back, he would see her face. And she could not afford to let him see how close to the edge she actually was. 4 days. Sebastian lasted 4 days without contacting her. He spent them learning things. He met with Dr. Angela Voss at the Bronx Center for Economic Justice. She received him with the particular skepticism reserved for men who show up wanting to fix something they helped break. Sebastian Hartwell wants to discuss restitution. Interesting. I want to do this right. Is this about guilt or conviction? The question stopped him cold. It started as guilt. He thought about it honestly. But now I am not sure the reason matters as much as what I do with it. She leaned back. Your father's firm damaged 11 families that we know of, probably more. What are you willing to do about that? I do not know yet. That is why I am here. Over the next 3 weeks, Sebastian met with restitution attorneys, community development economists, and the adult children of families his father had ruined. Each story was a different kind of wound. My grandfather lost his landscaping company after your father bought out his partner and dissolved the contract. My mother had to move us to a shelter. I never finished college. I was 2 semesters out and the money disappeared. I am 43 now and I am still carrying that. We do not talk about what your family did to us. It is too painful to say out loud. But I am glad someone finally is. Sebastian listened. He did not defend himself. He did not explain. He just heard. And he understood something he had not before. Money could not undo any of it. But it could create the opportunities his father had stolen. Education, business capital, healthcare, real things. He called an emergency board meeting on New Year's Eve. The 12 members arrived, annoyed. Nobody wanted to be there. "This will be quick," said Sebastian, standing at the head of the conference table. "I have made a decision about the future of Hartwell Capital." "What decision?" asked Morrison, the oldest board member. "We are establishing a restitution program for the descendants of families my father defrauded." The silence was total. "Restitution," Morrison repeated. "Are you out of your mind?" "No. For the first time in my life, I am thinking clearly." Sebastian placed a folder on the table. My father won those cases through fraud and forgery. I have documentation. I can release it publicly, or we can handle this internally. Is that a threat? It is a choice. Gutierrez, the CFO, leaned forward. What does the program look like? Not charity, business partnerships, co-investment. People bring proposals, the fund evaluates them like any investor would. If the plan works, they get capital, they keep equity. Sebastian paused. And I am resigning as CEO. The room erupted. You cannot do that. Who runs the company? This is insane. Sebastian raised a hand. I own 40%. I know, the board can block me. That is why this morning I acquired an additional 11% from private shareholders. Silence. I sold my apartment, my cars, 3 investment properties. He let that land. I now hold 51%, majority control. What I am doing happens. Morrison stood up. Your father would be ashamed of you. My father is dead. Sebastian loosened his tie for the first time in his professional life. A good portion of what he built should have died with him. 5 board members resigned that night. The rest stayed, some from conscience, some from calculation. It did not matter to Sebastian. He hired Angela Voss as the new director of corporate ethics. He established the restitution fund. He moved out of his Columbus Circle penthouse and into a modest 2-bedroom in the Morningside Heights neighborhood. He did not tell Elena any of it, because this was not for her. This was for him. So he could look at his own reflection without flinching. Whether or not she ever knew was beside the point. The news broke the following Thursday. Heir of Hartwell Capital resigns as CEO, establishes restitution fund for families impacted by late founder's misconduct. Sold personal assets estimated at over $12 million to secure majority control. Elena was making eggs for Lucas when she saw the alert. She read it standing at the kitchen counter while the pan went cold. She read it twice. Then she put Lucas's breakfast on the table, waited for him to eat, dropped him at Mrs. Patterson's apartment, and took the A train to Morningside Heights. The address from the article was a 5-story walk-up. No doorman, no lobby art. She buzzed the apartment. Static. It is Elena. A long pause, then the door clicked open. He answered on the 2nd-floor landing. He looked different. Thinner in the face, dark rings under his eyes. He was wearing jeans with a paint stain on the knee and an NYU sweatshirt that had seen better days. Without the armor of money, he looked entirely human. I was not expecting you. I saw the news. Can I come in? He stepped aside. The apartment was small, 1/3 of the size of his old living room. Cardboard boxes of books stacked against every wall. A folding table with a laptop on it, a second-hand couch, 1 good lamp. What did you do? She said softly. What I should have done from the beginning. You lost millions. I lost things. There is a difference. He leaned against the kitchen doorframe. Things can be replaced. She sat down on the couch. Her throat was tight. Did you do this for me? No. The answer came fast and clean. I did this for me, so I could stop being someone I did not recognize, so I could stop funding my own comfort with someone else's suffering. But my family is on the list. Every family affected by my father is on the list. He sat across from her on a folding chair. And it is not charity, Elena. You submit a business proposal. The fund evaluates it like any other investor. If it makes sense, you get capital. You keep full equity in whatever you build. And if I say no, then you say no. That is your decision entirely. She felt something loosen in her chest, something that had been held tight for a very long time. I do not know how to do this, she said. Do what? Trust someone. Let someone in. She pressed her palms together. I have been alone for so long, I forgot what it looks like to share any of this with another person. Sebastian slid off the chair and crouched in front of her. Not touching her, just being at her level. I do not know how to love without trying to fix things. I do not know how to be vulnerable without panicking. I do not know how to be someone's equal without accidentally trying to be their solution. He looked at her. I am learning. Slowly. So am I, said Elena. And what do we do with that? Maybe we do not know. His mouth curved, sad and honest. Maybe not knowing is okay. Maybe we can figure it out as we go. She looked at him for a long time. You will probably hurt me again. Probably. And I will probably push you away. Most likely. She extended her hand. He looked at it for a moment, then took it carefully, like it was something that could break. Slow, she said. Slow. One step at a time. One step at a time. And if you do something without my consent again, I will absolutely kick you out and never speak to you again. Completely understood. They sat like that for a while. Two people with a complicated history and no roadmap and more trust issues than either of them could inventory. But for the first time, uncertain did not mean hopeless. It just meant real. Coyoacán Park in Brooklyn was full of families on a bright June afternoon. Balloons tied to benches, a DJ setting up near the fountain. Kids chasing each other between the oak trees and shrieking with the specific joy of being 6 years old in summer. Lucas, who had just turned 6, was somewhere in the middle of all of it. What are you thinking about? Sebastian settled onto the bench beside Elena, handing her a cup of lemonade. Their fingers touched as she took it. She did not move her hand away. That a year ago I could not have pictured any of this, she said. She looked around the yard. Mrs. Patterson was deep in conversation with Angela Voss. Adriana and her daughters were playing freeze tag with kids from the neighborhood. Sandra from the restaurant was sharing a piece of birthday cake with two of Sebastian's former colleagues. The Garza family, one of the families from the restitution fund, was laughing with a group of new business partners. Two worlds that had never overlapped, sharing a birthday party in a park. How is the restaurant? Good. Exhausting. Great. She smiled. We signed the lease on the second location last week. Where? Hunts Point, where I grew up. Her eyes lit up. I want people from my neighborhood to have somewhere beautiful to eat dinner without having to drive to Manhattan to find it. You are going to change everything. Not alone. Patricia and I are equal partners, 50-50. Patricia Garza, another fund recipient, had come in with operations experience. Together, they had turned Elena's catering side business into a full-service restaurant that the Bronx actually claimed as its own. And the fund, he shrugged. We lost some big contracts, gained a reputation we could not have bought. Ethical firms want to work with us now. Do you regret any of it? Not one thing. You lost millions, Sebastian. I gained something better. He looked at her. Self-respect, and the ability to be in this park right now without feeling like a fraud. Adriana walked over with a plate of cake. Elena, your coconut cake is a sensation. Half the neighborhood is asking if it will be on the restaurant menu. I am thinking about it. Adriana turned to Sebastian with a measuring look she had been slowly softening over the past 10 months. And you? When are you going to propose to my best friend Adriana? What? It is a fair question. It has been almost a year. 10 months, said Sebastian. And when she is ready, I am not going anywhere. He said it plainly without performance. Adriana squinted at him for a long moment. You know I told her all rich men were the same? I remember, said Elena. I was wrong. Adriana pointed her fork. 99% of them, yes. You appear to be the exception. That is quite an honor. Take it or leave it. She walked back toward the cake table. Lucas came sprinting toward them, out of breath, his shirt half untucked, holding a crumpled piece of paper. Mommy, Sebas, look what I made. He thrust the drawing at them. 3 figures in crayon. A woman with curly hair, a small boy, a tall man. At the bottom, in enormous, uneven letters written with total 6-year-old sincerity, my family. Elena felt the word press against her lungs like pressure. This is beautiful, baby. Sebas's family now. Lucas announced with the confidence of someone who had long since decided this and was just now informing the relevant parties. Elena looked at Sebastian. He was staring at the drawing with wet eyes and the particular expression of someone trying very hard to hold it together in front of a first grader. She reached over and took his hand. "Yes," she said. She said it quietly but clearly. "He is." Lucas cheered and ran back into the chaos of the party. Sebastian turned to look at her. His thumb traced a careful circle on the back of her hand. "In this moment, are you sure? About the family part, yes. About the rest is still one step at a time." "Okay." He squeezed her hand. "Okay." They sat together in the afternoon sun while Coyoacan Park rang with laughter, and Lucas's voice rose above it all, calling back to them every few minutes to make sure they were still watching. They always were. "Hey," said Lucas, sprinting back one more time, collapsing against the bench between them, his sneakers flashing. "You know, that night at the bus stop when I said that man was staring at us?" Elena stiffened. Sebastian stilled. "I remember," Champ said Sebastian carefully. Lucas pointed at Sebastian with the casual authority of someone delivering the obvious. "He is still staring. But now you are staring at him too, Mommy." He grinned, enormously pleased with himself, and ran back into the crowd. Elena turned to Sebastian. He was looking at her with an expression she had learned to read over the past year. Not rescue, not pity, not the complex, bruised guilt that had started all of this. Just seeing her. Exactly her. "What did you see that night?" she asked. "When you pulled over at that bus stop, before you knew anything about who I was, what did you actually see?" "Everything I had been missing." His voice was low. "Everything money could not touch. I saw someone who was exhausted and soaked and furious and still holding the whole world together for her kid. And I thought that is what real looks like. I had forgotten what it looked like." And now he brought their joined hands up and pressed his lips to her knuckles. "I see home." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I see home too," she said. Below them, Lucas was running between sunlit trees, arms wide open, his laugh carrying all the way back to the bench where his family sat together watching him go.